Hi, welcome to Amanda's Book Corner. I'm Amanda, and this is my review of The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. So this is the third book I read by this author. I first read Gods of Jade and Shadow in 2019, and then last year I read Mexican Gothic. I loved both of those books. They're both really very different from each other, but very fun. Whereas Gods of Jade and Shadow is a fantasy quest set in 1920s Mexico that involves, gods of the underworld and traveling all over the countryside to collect his missing parts. Mexican Gothic, on the other hand, is, well, true to its name, it's a Gothic. It's set in Mexico in the 1950s. Scarlett, you're not supposed to be here. It's more of a creepy haunted house with elements of sci-fi and creepy people that are into eugenics and stuff like that. So I really love both of those books, and while I was waiting for Silvia Moreno-Garcia's next book, Velvet Was the Night, which came out in August, I decided to start reading a reissue of her earlier book called The Beautiful Ones. Now, unlike those previous two books that I have read, which are both speculative fiction, they have elements of fantasy, gothic, a little bit of sci-fi, stuff like that, The Beautiful Ones is less speculative fiction, although it does still have elements of it. It's primarily a book of manners, as the author herself has described it. It kind of plays out like a book that could have been written maybe a century or more ago, maybe the late 1800s, early 1900s. While it kind of looks like it could be a historical romance, it is set in a fantasy world, and two of the main characters have the power of telekinesis. The Beautiful Ones follows three main characters. I would say the main character is Nina, short for Antonina. She's 19 when the book begins, and she's in her debut season. She's left her home estate in the countryside to go to the city of Loisel. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that's how I'll pronounce it, Loisel. And that's where she's going to make her debut and hopefully meet a nice young bachelor who will ask for her hand in marriage. Nina is staying with her cousin and his wife. So her cousin is Gaetan, and his wife, one of the other three main characters, is Valerie. And finally, filling out the three main characters is Hector. Or Hector, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. A lot of these names kind of look French to me, and while I don't really speak any French at all, unfortunately, it's a fantasy world, so it's impossible to say. Hector has a history with Valerie. They were once engaged, and it's been a decade since they've really seen each other, but he hasn't let go, and he still wants to win her back, never mind that she's already married. Meanwhile, he pretends to be courting Nina. Nina seems to have fallen for him and is hoping that he will ask for her hand in marriage, but his true intentions maybe aren't quite as honorable as that. So it's definitely a sort of love triangle from the get-go. The Beautiful Ones is a very character-driven novel. It's kind of slow-moving at first, especially for the first part, maybe the first third of the book. For me, it really got more exciting maybe halfway through the book, and then for me, the stakes raised, and I read through it a lot faster than I had for the first portion of the book. Nina is the youngest of the characters, and I think she's a great character. She's the most endearing of them. When the book starts, she's very inquisitive and maybe a little bit naive, and she's definitely a romantic. Maybe her head is a little bit in the clouds, but she's also unconventional in her own way, and she doesn't seem to care. She's pretty self-confident, and she's okay with being different. She just wants someone who understands her and accepts her for who she is. However, in the second part of the book, she definitely goes through a transformation. She still retains a lot of her good qualities. She's still very candid and frank and bold, but she's also a little bit less naive, less romantic. She's more guarded, she's more cautious maybe about how she sees people and what she thinks of their intentions. She's wiser, but she definitely has her guards up a little bit more than ever before. Hector also goes through a transformation. In the first part of the book, he definitely, while I like him in the first part of the book, he's a little bit pathetic and a little bit stuck in the past. He's morose. He's kind of closed off from a lot of people. And he just has unrealistic ideas of what he's going to accomplish and how certain people are going to change and what his future might hold. In the second book, he goes through some much needed character growth. He has a tougher time in the second part of the book, I'm not gonna lie, but he's kind of earned it, and I think he ultimately comes out of it a better person. He becomes a little bit less ridiculous and more honest, more honorable. He's still a bit on the weak side. I think both of the women characters in this book are a lot bolder than he is. But I still like him. By the end, I do like him. He's a little bit wishy-washy. And then there's Valerie. Oh, Valerie. She's an upper class snobby woman. She's very critical. She's very controlling. She's very unforgiving and ungenerous with her opinions of others. And as the book goes on, I think she really digs in her heels with who she is, and she becomes more and more unlikable. She's one of those characters that you love to hate. And believe me, I kind of hate read her chapters. She made me so angry a lot of the time. And she becomes increasingly volatile and almost dangerous. She's kind of a wild card, I'm not gonna lie. And she does a lot of damage throughout the course of this book. I liked seeing how these three characters really interact with each other and how their interactions change throughout the course of the novel. It's a rather quiet book, and like I said, it is more character driven than anything else, although I will say towards the end, the action does really start to ramp up and there are some pretty big events that do happen. And I think the ending was actually pretty exciting. There were some kind of unexpected twists and turns along the way with characters that became more prominent later on and the way things really just spiraled out of control. But in the end, I actually did like how everything turned out for each of the characters. I think they all got the ending that they should have gotten. One more thing I will say about this, I did say already that it is set in, I don't know, something kind of like the late 1800s. It's hard to say exactly, and I'm not an expert on different time periods, honestly. But what I will say is, unlike other historical books that I've read that are set in say the late 1800s or so, those ones tend to still have a feeling of modernity to them. With the beautiful ones, I think Silvia Moreno-Garcia really did a great job of writing as if she was a writer in that time. I don't really know how to explain it exactly, but I feel like the writing style feels like the time it's supposed to be set in. There's a certain kind of detachment to her writing style. The book feels very formal and a little bit distant, and it follows each of these three characters with a kind of omniscient narration. So it doesn't get super involved in the characters in a certain way. I mean, it does get into their different thoughts and feelings and desires and things, but there's a certain level of detachment that, to me, it makes it feel authentic to the time. However, I will say it also made it harder for me to get into the book, at least initially. It took me a good while to really become fully invested in the characters. I'm not sure if that's because of the writing style or because the action didn't really kick in for me until maybe a third or halfway through the book. But either way, once I did get invested into it, I really enjoyed this book. So in the end, I gave it 4 stars. And this is my 3rd book I've read by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I'm really excited to read more from her. Very soon I'm going to be reading Velvet Was a Night. I already have it and I'm planning to read it in October. And there are a couple other novels that are already out that I plan to read, Certain Dark Things and Untamed Shore. And I'm hoping that one of her other novels, Signal to Noise, will also be reissued because I would like to read that one. Hopefully next year, we'll see. And of course, I'm sure she'll keep publishing new novels and I'll of course be reading those as well. But I'm definitely becoming a fan of her, and I like how different each of her novels is from each other. I've only read the 3 so far, but I really like that they each present something very different. The writing style feels different, the genre is different, the setting tends to be different. I think she's a really dynamic writer, and I'm excited to read more from her. So stay tuned for my reviews of her future books. I'll definitely be doing more. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll be doing more review videos just like this one. I'll publish at least 1 or 2 every week because I do read a fair amount. And in the next few months, I'm also going to start making additional content, so stay tuned for that as well. So thanks for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!